The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Basically, we have training camps all throughout the United States for a lot of these military contractors. These military contractors are former soldiers that have switched over to the private sector for the benefit of more money. Unfortunately, with the way the economy is going and a lot less contractors being focused in the Afghanistan region, that's left them out of work, so to speak. So they are offering their services to really the highest bidder. We've been volunteering down on a certain location in South Texas with a company called International Training Incorporated that's really been focusing on insurgencies and things like that throughout the Middle East. So we've been volunteering as insurgents, and in that way it gives these contractors the ability to sort of get used to the environment of being ambushed on roadside bombs, driving through small villages and being attacked, things like that. But now what they're doing is changing the focus over to civilians, American civilians. They are looking for what they call domestic terrorists and mass civil unrest. I've heard terminology used and compared towards what's going on in Greece right now. And a lot of us volunteers had done this pretty much just to stay in the game. But it's one thing when we're helping units go overseas and maybe save lives or save American lives, but it's another when they start coming over here to train to oppress American people and label them so loosely as domestic terrorists or civil unrest. They could be defined as anything nowadays.
Now, David, breaking this down for people, the good news is, but there's also some bad news. What percentage of people like yourself that have worked with the contractors playing the part of insurgents, playing the part of highly trained insurgents, what percentage are now refusing to be part of the let's go after people wearing John Deere caps, the new mission?
I would say 80 or 90%. A lot of us just turned our back on the whole subject. There's been various government agencies coming in to fill the slots.
That's the bad news. Explain what's happening there.
Well, you know, this company only accepts military, former military, active military as volunteers or recruits. So they're starting to tie in with government agencies from the FBI to DHS to ATF. And basically, the three of them are starting to send in these volunteers to replace us. And once we heard that, the number of that 80 to 90% is what materialized. It was, I would say, about 20 or 30%. But once we started seeing government agencies coming in to fill those gaps, you know, we started smelling something that we didn't like. And
this is a massive gear up. Tell us about the particular company, International Training, Inc.
International Training, Inc. is just fed up with G4S. They're basically one of the largest security contractors for the Pentagon. When Blackwater fell, these are the guys who picked up the slack. And they have considerable activity over the Middle East. Right now, they are the majority of security contractors in Iraq that everyone says that aren't there.
How big do you think their black division is, their hitman division?
Hitman division and something like that's really just, that's a pay grade. It's not a designation. These are people who fight for money. They don't fight for causes. And the problem is as I said, we have an economy that's
How much are they going to have to get paid to take on families and take the dads away so the government people can take the little toddlers away and have fun with them?
Well, I know it would be anywhere between $150,000 to $180,000 for a 9-month tour if you're going overseas. So I can only imagine that they would match that here.
Well, that's pretty cheap for somebody's soul.
Absolutely. And that's why a lot of us have turned our back. Not because it's cheap, because it's just not right.
You were telling me recently you turned down quite a bit of money to do some of this work. I mean, how much were they offering you?
They were offering me $180,000 to do escorts from Pakistan to Afghanistan for a 9-month tour. You know, because I have children, I just can't put that risk on my life. If I was single, it'd be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, the way things are going, my family. There's just too many reasons not to do it.
So is this a pretty big, you were telling me, this is a big wake-up call in the police and military community. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. You were telling me about, you were having dinner with a retired three-star general, recently retired. And, I mean, all this coming out in the open, the work I and others have done, I think it's really waking people up now that this is so real.
Yeah, it's getting alarming. I mean, the individual I had dinner with, I'm not going to mention any names, but the individual I had dinner with had retired because of what's going on in the climate. He refused to do his duty, and he opted for retirement. He was at the age, he had the years under his belt, and he took it. He took it wisely.
And that was the end of the briefing. As the people left the room, several came up to me before leaving to thank me for coming and making an interesting and thought-provoking presentation. My wife's cousin invited me to his office for some coffee, and until I arrived, I had no idea how far up the chain of command he was. He's a member of the Soviet Supreme High Command. We talked for about an hour concerning several aspects of the briefing when he handed me an unmarked file. I sat in total disbelief of what I saw. In my hands was a letter from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano officially requesting that the Russian Federation contribute 4 brigades of advanced security forces as part of a larger multinational force to assist in quelling domestic violence within the United States of America. The letter was dated September 14, 2009, and signed by the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Napolitano. So I want to say something. All of you people out there who have mocked the warnings, who have absolutely ridiculed, scoffed, scorned, and so, well, I don't see any of these guys. According to my general friends, there were 420,000 foreign troops bivouacked in the former military bases that George Bush Sr. gave away to NATO. So, Doug, this is and I don't know, maybe somebody could send you or send me, what's the strength of a brigade, a Russian brigade, but we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands. So Lavrov basically said, the foreign minister basically said, how bad are our casualties going to be? Now, putting that into perspective, Doug, 2 years ago, that was a real situation, so much so that Robert Jones got in more trouble, and thank God, I prayed for him and others prayed for him, they'd be kept alive. We have to get it across to people. This is absolutely happening now. It is the greatest betrayal. We are no longer a political entity functioning at the two-party system under a Constitution and Bill of Rights. We are under a neo-fascist regime funded by the globalists for the total decimation and pillage plunder of the United States of America. And I don't know how any more I can be bottom line than that.
Well, Steve, no, you're exactly right. Now, let's get back to this report from Moscow here for a moment. A couple of things. First of all, I get the question quite frequently. Look, I've got no doubt that foreign troops are on American soil. We have enough anecdotal evidence. We have enough direct evidence given to us, you know, that they are indeed on our soil. And some are here to appear legitimate, like cross training and what have you. But quite a few of these are here for nefarious purposes. But the one question I get a lot is, if all of these foreign troops are here on our soil, number one, why aren't we seeing them visually? Why aren't more people seeing them visually? And number two, wouldn't it take a lot of support forces to keep these foreign troops fed and you know?
Absolutely. Now let me tell you a story that I got from an active duty Air Force guy just in the last 48 hours. He said, "Do you remember, Steve, when I told you about the C-130s that people were seeing all over the United States? Their single mission and their practice, Doug, was pre-selecting drop zones to resupply the international troops that are going to go after the American citizens and their guns." And this is from a man who was a trainer for them. Do you follow me?
I certainly do.
Where are they all kept? Again, let me explain something. George Bush Sr. gave over 100 Cold War military bases to NATO and to what I would call the excursionary forces. Look, we've got Holloman Air Force Base. We've got a whole German regiment. I mean, they own the whole base in, I think it's New Mexico. Then you've got the situation of up in Saskatchewan in the Royal Canadian Artillery Base. You've got a full German tank division, and that's just the Germans. You go to Boise, Idaho, and you've got the Royal, Singapore military, the jets, and I want to share something. They're all over. And I asked 2 4-star generals, active duty. I said, and this was 2 years ago, I said, guys, how many troops are here under color of international treaty and agreement? And they at that time said 420,000. Now, look, I don't know anything about the military, and I openly confess that. But I know that I've learned that when you're talking to 4 stars, you basically only have one step above that, and most people can't handle that, and you don't have to go to any higher pay grade. You know, I get so tired. And by the way, when I heard the President of the United States say, well, that's above my pay grade, for the record, there are people above his pay grade.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the handlers are there. So, Doug, the answer is they're bivouacked. They're strategically placed in the open at military bases on cross-training. But, look, people are running into them all over the country, and we've been reporting on that, and we've been reporting on that ad nauseum. And now it's implemented, you know, and when I'm saying implemented, they're strategically placed. We've heard of nothing but more and more weapons. And, look, you've got to know, if people can't put 2 and 2 together, then they're going to be in big trouble before they even wake up, if they ever do, because you're talking about 1 billion rounds of ammo just between 2 federal agencies. That's not counting the military. That's not counting every other federal agency. Every federal agency is armed.